Well, the latest release of Epstein files have revealed bombshell emails from Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, to the convicted sex offender.
Yeah, let's get some more. Here's our entertainment editor, Peter Ford. Hi, Pete. What have we learnt this morning?
Well, we've learnt by way of these emails that Jeffrey Epstein had a child 15 years ago, a baby boy.
Made some huge mistakes, having anything to do with Epstein. It was a total wrong decision in every sense of the word.
Newly released Epstein-related documents are once again lighting up the internet. And this time, the spotlight swings toward emails allegedly connected to Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York. The reason this is hitting so hard isn't just the name recognition. It's the way these messages are being framed as quiet, private exchanges that may reveal what public appearances and polished statements never did. And, as always, it's important to say this clearly. What people are reacting to online is a mix of newly surfaced material.
His relationship with Epstein is certainly being scrutinised. What's the latest on the allegations around Fergie?
Well, all the time, and we used to feel a bit sorry for Fergie because we thought she was embroiled and brought under the sort of shadow, if you like, of her husband, or former husband. What's now emerged is that she's not only borrowed lots of money that she needs to do, but she also at one stage tried to retract from criticising Epstein.
Secondhand claims and interpretations. Some of it verified by reporting, some of it still disputed, and some of it amplified far beyond what a document can truly prove on its own. But regardless of where the truth ultimately lands, the impact is already happening in real time. Because once a story like this breaks, it doesn't move like a normal news cycle. It moves like a chain reaction. A name appears, a connection is implied, a motive is guessed. Then the guesses start hardening into theories, and the royal angle, whether fair or not, turns a scandal into a spectacle.
Ferguson congratulated Jeffrey Epstein on the birth of a baby boy after he was released from jail in 2011. Have we ever heard wind that Jeffrey Epstein might have had a child?
No, that's new. That was very interesting. I mean, he was very keen to.
Some accounts claim the palace kept certain things quiet to protect reputations. Others suggest money, access, and influence created a kind of tolerance that looked like loyalty from the outside. And layered into all of that are renewed claims about financial pressure, reports that Sarah Ferguson faced serious debt during that period, and allegations that she received money linked to Epstein, including smaller sums that, in context, still feel massive because of what they imply. It's the kind of detail that makes people ask a question that's never just about money. When someone is desperate, who do they turn to? And what does that help cost later? But underneath the headlines, there's one question that refuses to go away.
Epstein went to jail just before 10 this morning. He pleaded guilty in open court. He agreed to serve a total of 18 months in the Palm Beach detention facility, 12 for felony solicitation of prostitutes, and an additional 6 for procuring persons under 18 for prostitution.
Why would anyone in a powerful circle stay close to a man who had already been convicted? That's the hinge point. That's the moment the story stops being gossip and starts feeling like something structural, like a system of protection, denial, and calculation. Because once a conviction exists, I didn't know becomes harder to believe, and I stayed anyway becomes harder to explain. And when people can't explain something, they fill the silence themselves. They imagine motives. They invent reasons. They connect dots that may or may not belong to the same picture. That's why the newest material isn't landing as a clean revelation. It's landing like gasoline on a fire that never fully went out. Now, here's where the narrative takes a darker turn, because it's not just about association anymore. It's about a claim that changed the entire shape of the story, the suggestion that Epstein may have had a child. Publicly, he was not widely known to have children. His name wasn't linked to a family life in the ordinary sense. No long public record of fatherhood. No open acknowledgement. And that's precisely why one particular detail in the newly discussed material is causing such a sharp reaction. An email that allegedly congratulates Epstein on the birth of a baby boy. Not a vague compliment. Not a polite greeting. A direct congratulations tied to something as specific as a newborn.
This dump reveals that Sarah Ferguson, that would be Andrew's ex-wife, we've learned now that he gave her £15,000 to pay for some unpaid debts. One email from Sarah asks Epstein for £20,000 to pay her rent because the landlord is threatening to go public with what she owes. We learned that when Sarah visited New York, Epstein had to provide her with 4 apartments.
And then comes the line that makes people lean in. The message reportedly suggests the sender heard it from the Duke, which many observers interpret as a reference to Prince Andrew. That single phrase, if accurately reported and correctly interpreted, creates a tidal wave of questions. If someone in that social orbit knew about a child, who else knew? And if they knew, why was it never spoken about publicly? That's where the story starts to feel less like celebrity scandal and more like something hidden on purpose. Then another layer arrives through a separate thread people cite from released documents, a victim diary described in reporting and commentary, in which a young woman claims she gave birth to Epstein's child and that the baby was taken from her within minutes. It's a claim that's profoundly disturbing even before you ask whether it can be proven. And when you add in references people discuss about Epstein supposedly talking about creating a superior gene pool, the emotional temperature of the story changes. Suddenly the question isn't just, did he have a child? It's, if a child existed, where did that child go? And who made sure no one could follow the trail?
Fergie has been dropped by several charities, as you're just saying there, completely removed from many websites as the patron. And what also is going to happen today is that all this follows those gushing emails to Jeffrey Epstein following his conviction.
And before the story goes any further, one fact anchors it all. Epstein had already been convicted years earlier. So any relationship after that point isn't happening in innocence. It's happening in full view of what the world already knew. After Epstein served jail time, the timeline becomes even more uncomfortable to revisit. Because according to reports repeated in commentary around these documents, Sarah Ferguson allegedly visited Epstein not long after his release. And some accounts claim Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie were brought along. Whether every detail is accurate or not, the reaction is understandable. People struggle to reconcile the normality of a visit with the reality of what Epstein had been convicted for. It creates a cognitive clash, a sense of how could this possibly be treated casually? And that's the point where the story stops being about one man and becomes about the behavior of everyone around him. In scandals like this, association is its own language. Visiting someone is a form of signaling. Staying connected is a form of choice. And when the public sees those choices made in the aftermath of a conviction, it doesn't read as naivete, it reads as permission. Then the financial angle tightens the knot. Reports from that era and later commentary have described Sarah Ferguson as facing significant debt. Some outlets have alleged she sought financial assistance connected to Epstein, including claims involving rent money. Even if the amount sounds small compared to the scale of wealth around royal life, the symbolism is enormous. A relationship that includes money isn't just social. It becomes transactional in the public imagination. And when money moves through private channels, people naturally wonder what else moved with it. Influence, introductions, access, favors, silence. The question isn't only did she receive help. The question becomes, what did that help make her willing to ignore? And this is what happens when money and power overlap in the same room. People stop believing in coincidence. They start interpreting every interaction as leverage. Was the connection genuine friendship? Was it desperation? Was it a kind of survival strategy? Or was it something darker? Something that only makes sense if you assume hidden compromises were being made behind the scenes. And then the narrative pivots back toward Eugenie, not as a confirmed participant in anything, but as a figure pulled into the story by implication, timeline, and internet speculation. One comparison keeps surfacing in online discussions, that Eugenie is only a few years younger than Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused Prince Andrew and later reached a settlement. That age proximity doesn't prove anything on its own, but it changes how people look at the timeline. It pushes viewers to recheck dates, to rewatch old footage, to reevaluate moments that previously seemed harmless. Old videos reappear online for that reason. Clips people might have ignored in a different context begin to feel charged. Even when no wrongdoing is shown, the audience's perspective shifts because the surrounding story has shifted. And that's a dangerous but common dynamic in public scandals. When context changes, meaning changes. So the responsible approach is to hold two truths at once. First, that resurfaced footage is not evidence by itself. And second, that scandals like this thrive on how quickly maybe becomes must-have in the public mind. The story doesn't need certainty to spread. It only needs discomfort. And right now, discomfort is the fuel. To be clear, we're not saying anyone did anything wrong is often the sentence people use right before they imply exactly that. And that's why this phase of the story feels so messy. It's being assembled in public in fragments across social media threads and headline summaries. As more documents are discussed and more names are mentioned, it starts to feel, at least to observers online, like Epstein's world was less isolated than people wanted to believe. Not just tied to Prince Andrew, but brushing up against extended circles, acquaintances, and people whose names carry institutional weight. Online users have pointed to claims about other royal-adjacent names allegedly appearing in lists or contact books. Again, the key word is allegedly, because lists can be incomplete, misread, or misrepresented. But the effect is the same. People begin to see a pattern. And once the human brain believes it sees a pattern, it starts searching for confirmation everywhere. Then comes the darker whisper network part of the narrative, reports that Epstein had extensive camera systems on his properties, with speculation that footage may have been stored, backed up, or controlled in ways that could create leverage over powerful visitors. This is the kind of claim that spreads because it fits a familiar story template: compromise, blackmail, silence. Whether that template matches reality in every detail is a separate question. But it's the template people reach for when they can't explain why powerful people maintained proximity to someone convicted. And just as the conversation reaches that point, viral clips emerge. Images of Epstein in the city, allegations about who was with him, speculation about identities, new names thrown into the mix. It's not one huge revelation, it's a pileup, tiny pieces that keep arriving, each one adding weight. And the more weight there is, the harder it becomes for the public to accept the simplest explanation. The story becomes a magnet for suspicion, and suspicion becomes its own kind of momentum. See how this comes together? It doesn't hit like one explosion. It builds like pressure. Little details stack. Small claims become big conversations. And then consequences show up in the real world. According to reports referenced in coverage and commentary, multiple charities reportedly cut ties with Sarah Ferguson after news broke of her email contact with Epstein. That kind of reaction matters because it shows something important. Institutions often respond not only to what is proven, but to what looks reputationally toxic. Even the perception of connection can be enough to trigger a public distancing. Around that same time, other old emails resurfaced too. Messages tied to Epstein's longtime girlfriend, described by commentators as disturbingly casual in the way they referenced his presence around young people. Details like that don't just add to the story, they change its emotional tone. They make it feel normalized in a way that alarms people. And the more normalized it feels, the more viewers wonder how many adults around him chose comfort over confrontation. Then the narrative snaps back to its most haunting thread, the baby. Because once you hear multiple claims pointing in the same direction, an alleged congratulatory email about a newborn, a diary claim about a child taken after birth, references to talk of genetic legacy, and later reports that people contacted DNA services wondering if they might be related, the question becomes unavoidable, even if the answer remains unproven. Did Epstein secretly father children? And if so, who benefited from keeping that hidden? Who had the power to erase a trail, to quiet a mother, to bury a story before it could become public knowledge? And that's where the story stops being only about scandal and starts sounding like a warning about systems. Because when influential people keep close ties with someone who has already been convicted, it can feel like shielding. It can feel like protection. And protection always invites motive. Was it poor judgment? Was it fear of what might be exposed? Was it financial entanglement? Or was it something deeper? Something still locked inside documents the public hasn't seen yet? If powerful families truly had secret children hidden away, hypothetically speaking, that wouldn't just be another tabloid wave. It would reshape legacies. It would reframe histories people thought were stable. And maybe that's why every new release feels heavy, because instead of closing the case, it opens new doors. So the story ends where it began, with questions. If there's nothing to hide, why does each new document drop raise more uncertainty instead of clearing the air? And if this story isn't finished, what do you think the next set of files might reveal?